You're listening to Dumpster Diving with
Janice.
and Jane. And today we have our special guest. He's returning. This is the second time around.
My
And
God,
hopefully he'll come a lot more, but we'll see how much damage we could do today. Hey,
we're so
JP.
excited.
JP Reynolds, our coach extraordinaire. Yay!
We are such fangirls. And Jane, let's be clear. This is the first time JP will be with us on a fireside chat. So we don't even know what's going to happen right now, everybody. Like, we haven't seen, as far as I know, JP like completely unhinged. But he promised us consistent oddity. So that is what we have to live up to. He's got to live up to consistent oddity. So here we go.
All right.
I love it. I love it. All right, you guys, we are continuing on, right? So this is going to be a true testament to the difference, Jane, between a fireside chat and a regular episode. Because by the time people hear this, they'll have already listened multiple times to our episode on holidays with family, right? Multiple times. God only knows how many times, right?
I mean, diligently taking notes.
Taking notes, listening on the podcast, watching on YouTube, doing all the things. By the way, we are on YouTube now, if you hadn't been paying attention. So go check us out.
Yes.
And by the way, Jane's got all kinds of hair going on. So what it looks like, YouTube.
I grew out my beard. I grew out my beard. I mean, I couldn't.
Right. And your beard. Don't forget. Go to YouTube to see Jane's beard. Exactly.
Please,
so this will be the true testament to, okay, that was that episode. We're going to continue that topic because we are in holiday season and it's going to be around for another 6 weeks, right? So, and we brought JP because we knew JP would be able to offer us guidance and a comforting presence around
blanket.
the trauma that comes, right? But the fireside
I think
chat.
you got the wrong JP. I think you got the
he came to fireside chat.
I think we say fireside chat, JP. Let's do it. I love it. So where do we want to start, Jane? I'm trying to decide. Like, what do you want to start with?
Well, it was funny. I originally, when I spoke to JP last week and told him about our idea, he was like, "Oh, how fitting! I'm not talking to one of my family members right now, or they're mad at me, or whatever." And I was like, I laughed and I was like, "Yeah, you can tell us all about it on the fireside chat or not." But that's hilarious. That right before the holidays,
we love that you're not talking to someone.
But it's one of those things where it's like, of course, it's right before the holidays, of course, and that's not going to make anything awkward, And so it's just one of those things. And as you know, we're just going to be very candid tonight and have a lot of fun. So not that you have to tell that story, JP, but I think everybody wants to know now. And
wait, you can change names. You can change names and relationships to protect the not so innocent. So you just
PJ now. You're PJ, and so
yeah, you're PJ. Nobody's gonna know who you are now. It's completely different. Totally different.
Oh no, so first of all, it's wonderful to be with the two of you. Every guest says that no matter what show they're on. However, I truly mean it.
I really wish you'd say, "It sucks to be back here. I cannot believe you asked me again."
You two again.
But it's blowing my ear. I'll follow you anywhere. And then so when you invited me, it's like, of course. Then after I said the yes, it was like, I don't know if this is really the topic that I should be sitting around the fireside with the two of you chatting about anything. Okay. Where do I begin? I begin with, you have to understand that I have as many people do, a peculiar, distinct relationship with holidays.
Okay.
And I growing up, it was my mother and father. I have a younger brother. My father was the only child of an only child.
Okay.
So there's no family on that side. A grandmother who I adored. Another grandmother who was one of the most evil people I've ever met. Both grandfathers were out of the picture. And then on my mother's side, she had 3 sisters, none of whom spoke to each other at any one time.
Of course.
So growing up, there might be one aunt who was whatever. And I had one aunt who I loved, adored, but, she went through husbands like a subscription service.
Wow.
So like our father is what
Like
I
our father and me, kind of. I mean, four marriages.
I would never say that.
Subscription. Hey.
Well, with my Aunt Debbie, it was basically, why get to know the guy, because
I'm gonna dump him anyway.
why exert all that effort? It's just there's no payoff for it.
No, never. It's not worth the long haul.
So since we're on the cusp of Thanksgiving, I'll begin with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was at the dinner table. My mother, my father, my brother, my grandmother, who I adored, and myself. Every year. The Sunday before Thanksgiving at the dinner table was my mother, my father, my brother, and myself. Okay. Right. All of which means Thanksgiving was simply a big meal on a Thursday.
There you go. Yeah.
So this notion of Norman Rockwell.
Yeah.
Right. There's just we didn't have to go through the woods. We didn't have to get in a sleigh. There was, nothing.
There's no caroling and doing all the fun stuff.
I know. So confused.
Yeah, it was a very nice meal.
Yeah.
Turkey, ocean spray, canned cranberry juice sauce.
That's my recipe. Oh,
that is the real cranberry sauce, may I say.
Yes.
So what this meant was, I don't have now at this point in my life, I don't have any kind of an emotional attachment to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, thank God I don't have to do any Zoom on Thanksgiving. I don't have to do any work. I can just veg out. And I share this because I want to be upfront about having an odd approach to it all.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I will say, I feel very strongly. Aside from the coaching, I also officiate non-denominational wedding ceremonies.
Yeah.
I said that when I was with you before. If I didn't say that when I was with you before, it is too long a story to go into. However, I spent a lot of time officiating weddings. And oftentimes a couple will say to me, we can't wait until we start our life together. And my response is, your life started when you bumped into each other at the bar. Your life started when you swiped right or left or whatever you did. And what the wedding does is it celebrates what already exists. So I think when people talk about, get all worked up about the holidays, the reality is people are preeminently consistent. Right. So whoever got drunk last Thanksgiving is going to get drunk again this Thanksgiving. Whoever is going to, magnify the conversation last year is going to magnify it again this year.
Yep.
So when we talk about navigating the holidays, or that cliche of surviving the holidays, I think we've been conditioned to expect that something special is going to happen.
Oh my God, I never thought of that.
It's like,
it's going to.
No, I don't think so. Unless we get a script in the mail from the Hallmark Channel, I think the dialogue's going to be the same.
Oh my God.
So for our listeners on YouTube, I want you to use the comments right now, and I want you to play a game with us. And the game is going to go like this. Actually, I want you to wait. Well, you won't even hear this. You'll hear this episode after Thanksgiving. So I want you to use the comments to play this game with me. And the game is this. How accurate was JP in terms of the same person who got drunk last year, got drunk again, the same person? Like, I want you to keep a score of how many things consistently were true this year as were last year. Go, and we will respond to them if you comment on our YouTube.
And I can guarantee they will be next year.
Yes.
Okay.
He's a fortune teller, guys.
There's no real, all right, a poignant story that is holiday adjacent. When my father was dying, my father died from pancreatic cancer. He got the diagnosis, 6 months and a half, 2 months later, he was dead.
Oh, wow.
He was in assisted living. Well, it's good that it went, we're not.
Yes, of course.
That's true. That's
the
true.
man was 89 and whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember my brother very sweetly hoping, wanting for that moment when my father would look at him and say, I love you. Say, thank you. Say, I'm so proud of you. Okay. And I remember I was with my brother that moment where we thought we were on the cusp of that, and my father, and Peter's there and he's saying, Dad, if there's anything you want to tell us, anything you want to ask us, please, we're here for you. And it's I'm not mocking my brother. I mean, it's very, but I'm thinking, we don't have to say we, you could say you. I'm not expecting anything. All right. Yeah. And my father, who still had all of his faculties, or as many of his faculties that you normally had, looks at me and says, I have a question. Peter says, yes, no, anything, Dad. He says, who's going to take me to dinner? It was assisted living and he had to be wheeled, into the cafeteria or whatever. And Peter said, well, I will, Dad. JP and I, we will. He says, oh, okay. He says, is there anything else? He says, no. Roll credits.
I can't.
Roll credits.
Oh my God.
My God.
And he died as he lived.
There you go.
Died as he lived. Okay? That's the point I want to make. People are preeminently consistent up to their last breath.
Yep.
Amen.
And I think part of this whole holiday thing is, that suddenly, magically, life, relationships, energy is going to change.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's all hold hands and have a moment of Zen. No. Whatever annoyed you about somebody last month on Halloween, it's going to annoy you on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
You're celebrating Christmas, it'll annoy you on Christmas Day. So I think, part of this is we have to let go of the hype. We have to let go of, I know it's that magical time of year, but let's let go of the magic.
Right.
Okay. I'm not saying that there aren't sweet moments, but to think that because it's the holidays,
people are going to act right.
Yeah, that all you have to do is stand under mistletoe and bam, the past is forgotten and forgiven. No.
So you've given me a little bit of pause. I 100% agree with you. I love how you just couch that, right? And I think that as for folks who go into holidays and are constantly disappointed, that is like right on, right? Like, here's how you avoid disappointment. Stop expecting it to be different. However, JP, you also dredged up a little bit of panic for me because listen, between you and me, don't tell Jane I said this.
Yes.
This is gonna be my first Thanksgiving with Jane.
Yeah.
And she got this weird look on her face when you were talking about like how people will, and I just thought to myself, I don't know who Thanksgiving Jane is. What the hell have I set myself up for? I don't know what the fuck is gonna happen on Thanksgiving.
Okay, what you have set yourself up for, what each of you has set yourself up for is surprise. The
Yes,
gift of surprise.
we get the surprise.
I love
You
it.
each do. You
I
each
love
do.
it. Okay, I'm gonna set up a
It's
surprise.
okay. Tennessee Williams, one of my favorite playwrights, little known play of his called Small Craft Warnings. The lead character at one point in the play asks this question.
Yeah.
He asks, what is the one thing in life we must not lose sight of? The answer, surprise. The capacity for surprise.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And I think, you know, I think let go of the desire for magic, but always keep your heart open to surprise.
Right.
So let me add something to that then, because I feel like the other piece for me, right, of this kind of big holiday puzzle is, you know, Jane and I have talked a lot about our own experiences for holidays, right? And when I think about Thanksgiving and Christmas, my mom was actually one of those people in the midst of all the insanity, right, and all of the dysfunction and frankly all the violence. My mom is actually one of those people who went all out for holidays. And I'm pretty sure it's because she was trying to, I'm going to use the expression, make up for her own lacking, right, in childhood. So my mom would cook all the things. She would, you know, at Christmas, and I know I get this from her, whether I like it or not, at Christmas, she was the person out in the cold, putting up the lights on the house. Like every single year, she made sure that she did that. I know I get that from her. But the dysfunctional part still seeped in, right? Because she would invite all of her sisters. And like you were saying about your aunts, it's like everybody always hated each other. Like they were always on the outs. Like it didn't all the time, whether it was a random Saturday or it was the Thursday of Thanksgiving, they were on the out. So even though she did all these things, it was still just marred by all of that. However, because of all of that, for me, holidays are a big deal. But the difference is I control them, right? And so I work really hard to create the holidays that I wish I had had as a kid. There's no quite, I understand the psychology of that, right? For myself, but more importantly, obviously for the people around me, right? For my own kids, for my family, etc. It's really important to me for that. And I will say that I can, and I actually say this with a lot of gratitude in my heart, that because I have kind of gotten to the point in my life where I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to surround myself with the people who bring me joy and bring me happiness. They're usually fairly uneventful in terms of like drama or crazy or anything like that, because I'm surrounding my people with myself with people who bring joy, and so they bring joy to each other, right? So I feel like I say that to what you just said, because I feel like if you're the person who's always going to and expecting it to be different, I 100% agree with everything you just said, but I want to shed light on the opportunity to make it your own by doing it yourself. Right? Making it your own by being the person who makes those choices.
Right.
So you have touched on something that I think is very important, and was the other thing.
JP thinks I'm really important. I just wanted to put that out there. So
and it's the importance of ritual in our lives.
That's so true.
And so for all of my conflicted feelings to Thanksgiving and Christmas because of the past, there are also rituals that ground me. And so, for instance, when I was a child, I gave my mother and father, but it was really my mother who appreciated it. I gave my mother every Christmas a Christmas ornament.
Mm.
And when my nieces, each of them were born, I have given each of my nieces, Mary and Gracie, a Christmas ornament from their first Christmas. They now each have, they're in their early 30s, but some years they got a bonus ornament. So they each now have over 40 ornaments from me.
I love it.
We were going to have you invited to join us tonight. She wasn't able to make it. My goddaughter, Meredith, her sister, every Christmas, they have close to 50 ornaments each. It is just, and for me, it's like, I don't have to worry about a gift. That's the gift. And the ornament has to reflect what happens in the year.
Yeah, love that.
So that when you look at their tree, it tells the story of the last 30 plus years for them. That's a ritual that for me is a ritual that I honor each year. Yeah. I don't need to sit at the Norman Rockwell dinner table on a Thursday, right, but I already today start, and I start collecting these ornaments like throughout the year.
Yeah.
Today, it's like, okay, week before, okay, oh my OMG, I got to see what I've got stashed away.
Yep.
I think in the mad dash scramble of the holidays, you know, what you were talking about, Janice, was in the midst of all of the chaos, your mother had certain rituals.
Yeah.
And for her, those rituals grounded her, yep, and were a gift. Those rituals did not eliminate the cray-cray.
Yeah.
But somewhere in that ritual was the oasis. And, you know, when my godson, Finn, was growing up, his father was not in the picture. His father should have been arrested. He was just whatever. And so it was just his mother, and his mother was from a European country. So, you know, the whole US customs was foreign to her. And so Finn really didn't have much orientation to ritual. And it was around, you know, now around Thanksgiving, from the time I don't know, from the time he was like maybe 5, I'd throw him in the car. Literally, I would throw him in the car, much to passerbys a shock. And I say, okay, we need to get your mother a Christmas gift. We need to get her a gift. It needs to be from you. I will pay for it, but your mother needs a gift. Yeah. And it's like, initially it was like, what? No, let me tell you what I want. It's like, no. First, we're going to get your mother the gift. Then we will get you a gift. And I am bragging now, because what I wanted to give him was the gift of, I suppose, gift-giving ritual.
Yeah.
And then I taught him how to wrap the gift.
Oh, yes.
Love it.
That's my favorite part.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
And it would be like, we would get, I modified a little bit. We'd get a Christmas gift bag and then the tissue paper. And he'd say, you do it. I said, no, it's not my mother. It's not my mother. It's not my gift. You figure out how to do this. And we would laugh and we'd have fun. And then he'd get the candy cane. And then we'd go off to Target and he'd get his special gift. But for me, that had been, he's since has moved out of LA, but that had been a touchstone for how I observed and honored and celebrated the holidays. He now is in his early 20s. He and his mother remarried. They live in Texas. You know, I don't want to know if he's buying her a gift this year. But I offered that ritual. And so what does all this mean? And then I will shut up. Is for anybody listening, is what are the rituals
Yeah.
that give you life during the holidays.
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of rituals that will drive you stark raving mad.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Rituals you feel like you have to live up to versus
Right.
I love that language, rituals that give you life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm glad that you brought that up because I just recently was having a conversation with one of my best friends, and we were at a networking thing, and we had to meet with people as like speed dating, but it was like speed introductions and then, you know, go around, and then we ended up in front of each other. I'm like, oh, we can talk for 4 minutes. Let's go. You know, and I was like, you know, she goes, tell me something I don't know. And I was like, God, you know everything about me, I think, for the most part. And she's like, what was your favorite Christmas?
Mm.
Now there's a triggering question.
Yeah, big time. And I was like, how fitting. We're going to be talking about this tomorrow. I was just like, well, to be honest, I don't have a favorite Christmas. And she was like, come on, Jane, like, come on, you come on. And I was like, no, I'm dead serious. I have never had like a Christmas where I was like, holy shit, like this was my favorite Christmas of all time. And I said, and because, and the reason for that is because it was a nightmare every
Yeah.
year. It was a complete nightmare. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, nightmare. I said, but I love Halloween. Why? Because that was the one holiday that my mother actually, her crazy worked. So she wanted to dress us up and like, and she
Ah,
loved it. You know, she would, I mean, I remember one time we had the Halloween, the whole front yard decorated. My brother, Jason, no longer with us, RIP Jason, was in like this vampire outfit, and he was playing the organ, like he had a keyboard and it was on organ, and my
wow.
stepdad was all wrapped up in ace bandages, acting like a mummy, and I was a witch, and we had these ghosts, and I mean, we had so much fun on Halloween, and I think that that's why I'm so creepy, because I just, that was
That explains it.
it does. I mean, that was our fun holiday. Thanksgiving was a nightmare. We never got to see our family. So it was just us. And then it was just like you, JP. It's all of us sitting there eating stuff where we don't want to be around each other, and mom's screaming at everyone. And, you know, so it was just that. But the rituals for Halloween obviously stuck with me. So I always decorate for Halloween, and I do my kids' makeup and stuff, and I help them. And I mean, we've come up with some really cool, you know, costumes. And I mean, almost every year my costume comes out of my closet, but you know, it's a new combination, you know, and I'm a witch or a gypsy or something like that, and everybody's like, hey, okay, that works, and I'm like, okay. But the Christmas ritual, the one thing that I did love about Christmas was our stockings,
Mm.
because that was the only thing that my mom had 100% control over, I think, because, you know, the rest of it was like, you know, we got maybe one thing that we wanted. We were poor, you know, we
Yeah.
got one little thing, but but we cared about that, not my mom. So my mom would always do the stocking, and we would have a giant jawbreaker at the toe, you know, and then we would have those rice candies with the little paper wrapped around it, the little gummy ones in there. I mean, it was down to a T, the same candies, the same. And so we looked forward to that because we knew we would get these really cool candies and some little trinkets or maybe some little jewelry or something like that. And then the rest was just like regular, like what we asked for,
Yeah.
or whatever. So I love that. And I now do that. I've done that with my kids every single year. And the other thing is ornaments. I give away ornaments for Christmas gifts to coworkers and everything else. I usually make a card, and then I have a wooden laser cut ornament on there. And then if they don't get a card, then they get a big ornament or something like that. But I love ornaments as presents. But yeah, so we're talking about holidays and all of that. And I was coaching with one of my clients today, and the holidays came up, and she had mentioned like, oh, you know, and so I chuckled because we were having this conversation tonight, but she had mentioned something about, you know, maybe having some friction with somebody. And I said, well, you know, what are boundaries to you? How do you think they work? You know, and she was like, well, you know, you set your boundaries, and then you let people know that they're crossing it, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, let me offer you another perspective. What if boundaries are for you because you have control over you. Do you have control over anybody else? She's like, no. I said, okay. So if they cross your boundary, you can't stop them, right? And she's like, yeah. And I go, so what if boundaries were for you to know when or when not to handle something, and you can lift the boundary if you want to, but it's really for you. And when you look at it that way, if somebody is coming up and a conversation is coming up and it's bouncing against your boundary, you can choose whether to allow it to happen or use a response to stop it. And she's like, oh, she goes, well, I've never thought about boundaries like that. I go, yeah. I said, because we only have control over ourselves. I mean, everybody's going to do what they're going to do. And I told her the parable about the scorpion and the frog, and I've said it on the podcast before, the scorpion's not going to change. A scorpion is a scorpion, it's going to sting you. So if you know that about people, just like you started with, JP, like if you know that about people, then you know what to expect from them. And then you know how to shut it down for yourself. And you don't need to have an emotional reaction to it because you already know it's going to happen. So instead you say, am I going to deal with this or am I not? And then how am I going to handle that? I said, if a conversation comes up and whatever that person is saying and it evokes that from you, then you can say, I don't think right now is a great time to have this conversation. Let's enjoy the dinner and let's schedule some time to have some coffee and really talk that out when we're not amongst family and everything else. And she's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And it was just like this light bulb turned on for her because she was just like, I didn't really think about it that way where I could control the boundary. And I go, yeah, then nobody invades it. Right. And she's like, yeah. So that's how we kind of ended our conversation for the day. But it was more so to help her with handling family and getting together for the holidays and not getting triggered and being able to move through the day and have a good time and be that joy and receive joy in certain ways. So
I like that a lot. And fist bump on that. Sound. As you were speaking, it occurred to me that actually that whole notion of boundaries can be extended beyond just the other person I'm sitting across from to society's frenzied approach to holidays. You can set, we can set boundaries as to how much I'm going to let the commercialization of this time, how much I'm going to let the onslaught of movies, how much I'm going to, it's like, okay, I took Finn to get his mother a gift. Good. I don't need anything more.
That's it.
Boundary. Yep. I don't need to feel bad because I don't have 20 relatives. It's about creating a boundary. It's about creating what do you need? What do you want? And not feeling guilty about it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Well, and I will say this, Jane, that so what struck me as so important about what you said is I think that we do typically talk about boundaries in terms of what other people have to stop doing.
Right.
And I'm thinking about some conversations I've had with folks of late where it's like, well, this is my boundary. And so therefore that person needs to stop ... So right. I love the idea of your boundary is actually for you because you can't control anyone else. Yep. And so you have to think about your boundary in terms of what your action will be if and when somebody pushes on it or crosses it or could cross it or what have you. I think that's incredibly empowering, but B, it's also like, it sets people up for, it kind of ties to what you said earlier, JP, in terms of, what you expect, not expecting something different from the same circumstances, right? That your experience isn't dependent on whether or not somebody respects your boundaries. And I'm thinking about like that idea of respecting people's boundaries is so prevalent right now. Mm-hmm. And you're offering a different lens of what I don't have to rely on whether or not somebody chooses to respect my boundary.
Right.
I have my boundary and I'm going to control how I react with it. That
Mhm.
is a whole, it's a very enlightened perspective. And I really hope that folks who are listening you spend some time really thinking about that, right? Because it really sheds a whole different light on that idea.
When I came to that realization was with my mom, and it was the last Christmas that we spent together. And I think I told this story, but I'll briefly tell it. There was a whole present situation where I asked her not to buy a certain present for my youngest daughter.
Yeah.
She did it anyway. It caused a major problem, you know, and I found myself telling her, you're not respecting my boundaries, you know, when I asked you, and blah blah blah, and you did exactly what I asked you not to do, you know, and here we are. I'm upset. You know, like, there's all these things going on, and it's just too much. And it was that Christmas that I realized, I'm like, I could never control her. I could never ask her to act a different way or anything. I've asked over and over my whole freaking life, and she's never done it. Never. Never. She's always been the same person.
Yeah.
And that's when it clicked in my head. I'm like, wait a minute, boundaries aren't for people not to cross. They're for me to know when I'm done.
Yeah.
And or if I can go further. And it's for me. And so my boundary is, I always tell people, I said, oh, I have a great relationship with my mother because we don't have one.
Yeah.
That's the only way that it would work. The
Yeah.
only freaking way. I mean, for God's sakes, my brother and my sister-in-law are living with me because she swung on my sister-in-law, like, and when they were living together.
Right.
And my mother's in her 70s and she's trying to punch my sister-in-law, and she's never going to be different.
Nope.
So I had to change the way that I was approaching it, because there was no way I was going to come out of it sane.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when I switched it, and I coach about that all the time, and it's so effective. It's so effective. I use it all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. No, amen to that. Yeah.
Was that a mic drop?
It was a mic drop. A little bit. A little bit. I know.
Fire, dumpster fire, dry mic drop.
If we had a producer, they would put a mic drop picture into this, but we don't. So
Oh,
have to imagine it. We just
yeah.
have to imagine it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But I love that, because I feel like going into well, again, after people will listen to this, they're going to be going into Christmas. Thanksgiving will be over, for better or for worse. So, but I think it's really great timing for people to evaluate that and make some decisions, right? And you know, JP, I'm thinking about your Norman Rockwell reference, and I just think that it's so fascinating how I like it. So how much that whole notion of like the perfect holiday is still kind of pervasive. Although I do feel like we're starting to see more kind of commonplace references to unique holidays, right? Like there is no such thing as a ideal holiday or a Norman Rockwell, like make it all perfect kind of holiday, but that everybody kind of makes their own holiday. And yet I feel like there's these pressures, right, that come with family relationships mostly, where, you know, no matter what's happening, I still got to show up at Thanksgiving. No matter how miserable I know it's going to be, I still got to show up at Christmas, right? And so I wonder if we can spend a little bit of time like thinking about how people can be empowered to take a different action, to your point, Jane, right? Like, and I know it's hard because there's levels, right? Like there's people annoy me level, which is like, okay, well, you know, that's life. That's not the end of the world, right? And then there's I'm triggered because, you know, so-and-so in the family once upon a time treated me inappropriately, or what, like there's a whole spectrum of things that are reasons why holidays might be challenging for folks. And so for me, I feel like I love that we started with JP. You said, okay, guidance piece number one, stop expecting something different, right? They are who they are. They're going to keep doing what they're going to do. So stop expecting something different. You're setting yourself up for, you know, disappointment. Jane, I love that you layered onto that. Like, think about your own boundaries and how you're going to act on those boundaries, because they're yours, right? You don't need to announce them. You don't need to tell everybody. You just need to understand them yourselves and decide in advance, right? Be thoughtful in advance about how you might act accordingly, right? So I think the third piece that I'll layer on there, and then, you know, you guys can react and then throw anything else that you see is, and it can come across as flippant, because for me, this has been my life for 30 years, but it's choose to do something different, right? Like at some point you have complete autonomy over how you choose to spend a holiday. And JP, you got this a little bit when you said, I'm going to butcher your words now, but you basically kind of implied the same idea, right? Like, you can control you. Jane, you said the same thing. You can control you. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, the people who are listening who heard both of those things and said, yeah, but if I don't go, my mom will, or my grandma will, or my ... will, right? Like, how do you, how do you kind of handle that? And in my mind, at the end of the day, it's still this idea of like, it's okay to say, this time I'm just not, right? And you can use all kinds of excuses for that, right? Like, I'm all about, with our kids and parenting, we often say to our kids, throw us under the bus. Like, if you need to get out of whatever, or you have a friend trying to get you to do whatever, throw us under the bus. Like, who cares? We don't care. The same idea, right? Like, whether it's, gosh, I finally want to like have a Christmas with just us and the kids so we can build our own traditions, or, oh, I really have to go. Like, I don't know. I can't think of a list of excuses right now, but like how we help people be empowered to decide that they're just not going to, right? Just like, you're just going to do it different.
Yes. I would say two things. That, you know, the operative word here tonight is the word choice. And the issue becomes when people feel obligated to do something and then get royally pissed.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, damn it, I gotta, you know, I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna drink. I just hate it. And it's like, well,
I don't know what you're talking about though, JP. I love it. Don't understand, but go ahead.
You know, people, we trick ourselves into thinking, I have to.
That's right.
I've got to.
That's right.
Nobody is holding a gun to anybody's head here.
Nope.
Okay. However, then I want to add on to it is that if I choose to go to a relative's home for dinner, then I no longer have the right to bitch and moan.
Oh, I love that.
Exactly. You choose.
Shut the fuck up and deal with it. Sorry.
Because I have chosen. It is okay. I don't like that particular relative or whatever. I know how this is going to play out. However, I don't have the courage to tell them I'm going to do something else. So I don't have the courage to choose to do what I want to do. However, I am choosing to go. I am choosing not to have the courage to do something else. And so I no longer have the right to complain.
I love it.
100%.
And I think that's an
suffer in silence, baby. Suffer in silence. That's all we ask.
Well, not even suffer in silence. It's
be mad.
I'm agreeing to do this.
That's right.
I'm agreeing to do this. So if I'm agreeing to do this, I have forfeited the right to then bore friends for the rest of the week over happy hour, bitching and moaning.
Right. Or my kids, or my spouse, or my whatever, right? Like,
so that it's about being intentional.
Yeah.
It's being intentional.
I love that.
So it's I'm going because I want to respect my mother's wish. I want to respect my mother.
Yeah.
This is a gift to my mother who I want to strangle most times. However, Merry Christmas, Mom. I'm here. But you lose the attitude, you lose the drama, and you go, you are present.
I love it. Lean into it and be your best self. Yep. Right? Like if you made the choice, lean into it, be your best self, regardless of what's going to happen. And then honestly, walk out the door afterwards, shake it off and keep going, right? Like, which is easier said than done, right? But still.
And you can find ways to entertain yourself and have fun. I remember years ago when my father was alive, and I went back for Christmas, and my niece Gracie, we were sitting on the sofa. My father had a girlfriend, a Tootsie Wootsie, who had a large family.
Hold on.
Children and grandchildren. He spent most of his time talking about Yolanda's grandchildren rather than the two that he had. Okay.
Right, standing right next to
Hold
him.
on.
Tell you how awful it is.
I want to point out the term Tootsie Wootsie because you've heard it here first. Okay, continue. I just want to make sure.
That's what she was. All right. So Gracie, God love her, I don't think she was more than 10. Sat on the side, and Gracie is adorable. All right. Biased, I am, yes, but reality. And she'd sit on the sofa and she'd say, Grandpa, do you think the world would look nicer if snow were a different color?
Wow.
Okay. And he would like look at her, and it's like, and the two dopes, him and Yolanda, would be like, oh, sweetheart, you don't like white? Well, I'm just thinking, Grandpa, pink might be. I took her aside. I said, what the hell were you doing? Oh, I just like asking Grandpa stupid questions and seeing how he'll answer them. So she knew, okay, I'm not important. I'm not important in this man's life. I am not Yolanda's
I'm going
granddaughter.
to ask him stupid ass questions.
I'm second-class citizen here. My parents want me to sit on this sofa and entertain this man.
I love it.
So at the age of 10, it was like, okay, I'm just gonna like make up questions.
Oh my God,
love that.
I love it so much.
And it was a bit of improv comedy.
Yeah.
Now, if there's any psychiatrists listening in, they may say Gracie needs therapy, or I need therapy for thinking it's a brilliant idea. But I offer it because it is wackadoo. But it was her saying, okay, my parents are making me sit on this sofa. I don't want to sit on this sofa.
Right.
I don't have to talk to this man, but I have to talk to this man if I want to continue to live in this house.
Right.
So what can I do what can I do differently to make this at least, if not more, than a tolerable experience?
Right.
And that, I think, was at the age of 10, respecting herself, having fun, and choosing.
Yep. Choosing.
Oh my God. I love that. I love it so much. So I'm going to just lift it up from the perspective, from a parenting coach perspective, to say to parents who are listening, like, whether it's like your circumstance, her circumstance was, I'm a second-class citizen, right? To the Tootsie Wootsie's grandkids. I'm going to say that for many times as I can for the rest of this episode. So I'm second-class citizen to them. So I am going to make this choice this way. But I think about kids from, 12, 13, all the way up, right? They go into the holiday seasons dreading in their own way and having no choice, right? Because they're being dragged. They have no choice. They're being forced to sit there. They're being forced to have the conversation you just said, etc. So from a parenting coach perspective, I want to lift that up and say to parents, first off, acknowledge it, right? I know you don't want to go. I know it's the last thing you want to do. We're going to go anyway. Da, da. And then maybe empower your kid with this little story, because I love JP. Like, every parent's going to be like, you know what? I want you to be nice to, so-and-so, and I want you to be nice to whatever. And we talked in the last episode about be careful about that, right? We want to make sure we protect our children and our children feel safe. And sometimes the whole be nice thing can set them up for not being safe. So I'll leave that alone because we talked about it. But in this case, I love the idea of, like, if mom looks at you and says, look, I know you don't want to go. Hey, here's the thing. I don't care what wacky questions you put on the table. Do whatever. I don't care how you have the conversation, as long as it's not disrespectful. Ask whatever the hell you want and just see what the hell happens. And if they walk away from you, you're free, man. Like, go scroll on your phone.
Because, it's interesting because you see, Gracie embodied at the age of 10 what we're talking about. Gracie knew that because she was not Yolanda's granddaughter, she was second class. Okay. Now, she could have desperately wanted to be first class and done gymnastics to get my father to see her, acknowledge her. Oh, sweetheart, you're the apple of my eye.
Yeah.
She realized somewhere inside of her being, she realized that ain't going to work.
Right.
And she decided, I'm not going to expect this man to be the grandfather that I see on TV.
Right.
And having let go of those expectations, she was able to have fun.
That's right.
In a way that was respectful. I mean, there was a fun element to asking these dopey questions.
Right.
But it was, even at the age of 10, okay.
She was
I'm not Yolanda's granddaughter. I'm not going to compete with Yolanda's grandchildren.
Yeah. She was emotionally intelligent. I mean,
yes, absolutely.
That's exactly right.
And my father, let me say, my father at Christmas, was very good in giving gifts. He gave a gift and, money. So she knew that she was going to rack it up.
That's
She
original.
knew she was going to walk away with her money. She knew what her prizes were. She was going to walk away with the bonus round with the money. She was going to walk away with a gift that my brother said to my father, this is what she wants, buy it. So she was fine in terms of the prize count.
Yeah.
So
I love it. Right? Like, just again, thinking about those conditions and how, in this case, like I said, how we empower the young people, right?
Because, and ironically, this became a tradition. The tradition of asking Grandpa Joe and Yolanda weird questions on Christmas.
I love it.
Can you out weird last year's Christmas? And you see, the thing is, I mean, they weren't, let me say, they didn't have dementia, my father and Yolanda. They weren't addled. They were just narcissistic.
Yeah. I love it. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Oh my gosh, that's so fantastic. So, when Jane's girls show up here next Thursday and start asking shit like, wouldn't it be great if snow was a different color? I'll know she prepped them.
First off, here's the truth of it is, JP, they love their Aunt Janice. They are so glad her daughter took a 23andMe test and found out that we're sisters because we get to go to Aunt Janice's house and they get their own little space and while Mom sleeps downstairs and dies from the cats.
It's true.
I'm making the choice to go to her house and sleep on the back patio because that's the only place I can sleep with.
Hey, we're putting up lights for you though. It's going to be much brighter out there. You don't have to worry about sleeping in the dark. It's going to be lights. It's good. It's good.
Outside.
Outside. Yeah, just for you. Hey, I did vacuum all the sofas really deeply today. I'm working on the allergy thing, man. Okay. I'm trying to keep the cats out of your realm.
It was so bad when we were there last time.
Diva. God, she's such a diva.
No, I was like, my throat was closing up and I was wheezing really bad.
My throat was.
And I'm
I used a pen to go outside. Open her throat up. I stabbed her to open her throat. It was incredible.
That's such a lie.
Yes.
It wasn't that bad. I did have to.
Your light.
This is the shit I'm going to go deal with. I'm making this choice.
Yes, okay. But in all seriousness, I adore them and they're wonderful. However, there will be other adults there. I cannot promise they're not going to get. So, how old are you? Oh, yeah. What grade does that mean you're in? Oh, yeah. What's your favorite class? They're going to get all that bullshit. And so that's how that goes. But
yeah. Well, that's just going to be on Thanksgiving. So
that's just Thanksgiving. The rest of it will be all good.
Yeah. Friday, Saturday will be fine. So, and they are expecting to stay until then. They're like, oh, Genevieve was like, how long are we staying?
Right.
I was like 3 days. She's like, okay. I'm like, Jesus. Well,
I love it.
How do we want to wrap this up?
I think, look, we've done a lot for these people. Okay. I feel like we've given them, I'm going to call it 3 big ideas. We added in the parenting piece in terms of helping support them with their younger people. I mean, I don't think we have more to give. For God's sakes, it's a season of giving, but really, I don't think we have more to give.
Well, here, I'm just going to point out something real quick as the angel sister, the younger sister.
Okay.
You just called our listeners these people, and I don't know if they like that.
You know what?
So our listeners will love all of this.
Our listeners will love all this, but there are these people until they start freaking emailing us like we've asked.
Oh my God.
So
And this is a fireside chat, so
You want me to call you out by name? Or just comment on my YouTube
Well,
video?
okay, I would then add my own little tidbit here. You asked earlier, Janice, for your listeners to respond in the chat box on
Yes.
YouTube. Well, okay, so now I want to add my own, and it's like, folks, you who have stayed with us until this moment in time, love to know, do you think do you think the world would look smaller if snow were a different color?
Yep, I want to know.
Oh, yeah, I want to know.
The first person to answer that question in the comments gets a Starbucks gift card. Very first person. Because you know what? We're incredibly generous and we have a huge budget. So $5 Starbucks gift card coming your way, baby. $5.
Oh,
Do you think, okay, the question is, do you think the world would look smaller if snow were a different color?
All right, that's it. We're wrapping it. That's it.
That's
There's
it.
your question, everybody. Do
All
it.
right, folks.
Do it. But listen, hold on. You'll hear from us one more time before Christmas, but now you have almost 3.5 weeks between the airing of this episode and Christmas to figure your shit out around the holidays. And we've given you all the tools to do that. So share, like, subscribe, do all the things. Make sure you go see us on YouTube. Jane's hair looks fantastic. And JP, I mean, come on, you got to see him in real time.
He's so dapper every time.
But listen, we love you guys. Thank you for being here. Peace out, man.
Bye.